The Sixers are trading Jaden Springer to the Celtics for a second-round pick. Spike, just as we were developing a young defensive player with some upside offensively, you trade him to the rival.
Upside offense. The only thing that makes me nervous is that the Celtics wanted him.
Yeah, for a second-round pick.
Now they've replaced 2 of the 3 second-round picks that went out in the Hield trade.
Sick
so far. I'm just saying, that there's no second-round pick. There's only 1 second-round pick deficit, so that's good. Jaden Springer cannot play in the playoffs. He can't hit open threes. He doesn't know what he's doing on offense. He's only 20, I think. He might be good in 3 or 4 years. I don't have 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, you do.
We might all be dead within 3 or 4 years. I'm just saying. You never know.
Way to make a Jaden Springer trade all about that.
Well, you never know.
Dude, that's a bad sign. I'm not even 30 yet.
Yeah, well.
Not to make this about me. Like, the Spike I could see, but with me, it's a little, it's a little much.
I'm just saying. I'm not worried about the Jaden Springer thing. We don't have time to wait for Jaden Springer to learn how to shoot. He's an adult in the NBA. You got to learn how to shoot.
He is strictly defense.
Yeah. He's been here, he's had a couple of nice moments. Been here 3 years. Still can't shoot. Still dribbles when he shouldn't,
Played good defense on Luka the other night.
And Steph last night.
Yeah, but you can't play 4-on-5. We had Thibault doing the same thing.
But it's not about right now.
I love me some Thibault.
It's not about right now.
When is it about?
It's about that's a good, solid, at least there's something to work with that maybe going forward you can have. To give away for a second-round pick is dumb. It's pointless.
I'm not arguing with you about Jaden Springer. He can't play. They have the MVP. He's 30 years old. We're worried about him not being able to play.
The MVP is not playing basketball. Like, what are we talking about?
Then Jaden Springer will make up his 36 points.
I'm just talking about what about in the offseason figures out how to shoot a little bit better. He already has good defense. It's just dumb. Like, you don't have to get.
He ain't going to figure out how to shoot that much this offseason.
He's been in the league 3 years. What was he doing the other offseasons?
He's working on it. So, Elliot, what do you got over there?
The Chicago Bulls are keeping Andre Drummond.
Why? They're so dumb.
So there's
man.
another player the Sixers were linked to that will not be coming, and it's after 3 o'clock now. So
yes, it's officially ding, ding, ding.
It appears no more trades are coming.
Well,
what about buyouts?
Well, the Sixers have like 3 roster spots open now, so I would think they expect to be pretty active in the buyout market. And they have not field a team.
Well, and they have more money to spend because they got that trade exception. They can spend $4.5 million rather than the normal vet minimum that they can spend. So they have a little more money than they would have had.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man. I'm a little confused as to what we're trying to do moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do anything that was catastrophic to the team.
No.
They made some minor moves. I guess we can debate how much of an upgrade these moves are versus what is gone. I know everything can't be based off of fan reaction, but the initial reaction from most fans is that we've given up core players that I don't know, would you have rather kept Pat Bev and Marcus Morris versus what we're doing right now? I think I might have.
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Nah.
It's just like
you wouldn't have rather kept Pat Bev and Marcus Morris versus what we have right now.
I still believe they will sign somebody in the buyout market. I still believe the Kyle Lowry thing is real. And if
Kyle Lowry's cooked,
but you're talking about a guy he's won a championship. You might need 12 minutes out of him in a playoff series. And I don't mind having Kyle Lowry. I'm not saying he's changing the calculus of it. I'm just saying the Hield thing to me is more meaningful than anything that they lost. They have not had a shooter of his capability since
Jody Meeks.
Well, since Redick.
Oh.
Redick was the last guy. But I don't think the moves were that significant. I think what these moves say to me is that Morey is betting on the summer. That's basically what these moves say to me.
It's like you get Hield with it helps when Embiid's back, and you're not trading the farm.
Yeah,
and it's whatever happens. He
did a middle thing. He said that I'm not going all in on this year. And by the way, it's not like anyone got traded today.
No, nobody did. Yeah, nobody did. Yeah,
I think the only 2 all-in moves they could have made were not, and they were both prior to the deadline, were both Anunoby and Siakam. Yeah. And those are both guys that if you're trading for them, you understand you're committing $40 or $45 million a year to them. Anunoby's a good player, but we're just about to get off a guy who we're playing $40 million a year who never made an all-star team. Do you want to do that again?
Should have made one.
Tobias, you're talking?
Yeah.
But he didn't.
He didn't.
Yeah. So
did they make a mistake not being in on now that the deadline seems like it's over and no moves are made? Did they make a mistake not being on Siakam or Anunoby?
Here's what I would say about that. If Nick Nurse wasn't beating the drum to get those guys, then why should I? He knows them. In other words, if Nick Nurse thought they were that significant,
he would go up to Daryl and say, "Make this happen."
That's what I'm saying.
But that's honestly what makes me nervous about the Buddy Hield trade. Not that it's like a super needle mover, but the Pacers, I think they have a chance to win the East this year. Why are they moving on from Buddy Hield for 3 second-round picks? Because they don't want to pay him this offseason? But still, like, you'd think that he would be able to help them to give them a shooter.
They have a bunch of young guards there.
Like Nembar, they probably want him to play more.
Yeah, and they get 3 seconds out of it. They weren't going to re-sign Buddy Hield. You're at that point, and they're not going to win the championship. They know they're not going to win the championship this year. So your bet aside.
All I'm talking about is winning the East. All I'm talking about is winning the East. I think they could beat the Bucks, and then we have to see how they do against the Celtics. But they have a chance to win the East.
They're one of those teams that
talked yourself into that.
It's plus 5,000. I mean, like, what are we talking about here?
Jack's going to retire on his
$500. Yeah, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, I truly think that these moves are a slight net positive on this year, and that what this tells me is that Daryl isn't super confident that Joel's coming back.
Yeah.
You know, I think really at the end of the day, he did stuff to make this year a little easier to stomach if you've watched the last few games. He also put himself in position to re-sign Buddy Hield if he wants to after this season, who could be a nice player for them. And it really ends up costing you 1 second-round pick.
And he ducked the tax.
And he did duck the tax.
Which is, I know you couldn't wait to break down the tax implications.
We love ducking the tax here.
Yes, no one's
as long as it saves Josh Harris and David Blitzer money, we are very happy.
Now, did they want to get under that so they could afford some free agents for the Commanders? I guess we'll see what has to be done there.
You never know.
Elliot, real quick, what's your reaction to the deadline?
Yeah, I think it's really disappointing. When they traded James Harden for all the assets that they did, I thought the plan was to try to trade for someone that would help Joel this year. Like, that's what Daryl's talked about. At his introductory press conference, he said, give us time, don't judge us now, judge us by who we are. Well, what are they, the 5 seed right now? And they might be in the play-in tournament. So I agree with Spike. This does read as if they think something's coming this offseason, but they better be right. Because if they're not, like, they did nothing at the deadline to help this team win. Daryl has said it's his responsibility to make sure as long as Joel is here, he gives him a chance to win a title. I don't think he did that this trade deadline. Like, they'd be better off with James Harden than they would have been of making that trade. So no. I think it's James Harden's a point guard that I think the number 1 seed in the West right now. So,
great. And then how many times has he been the number 1 seed in the West? And then he was leading the league in assists last year, and then what happened? I mean, I don't want to debate James Harden, but that guy, he's failed in the playoffs his entire career. Since he was maybe when he was second, third year in his career in Oklahoma City was the last time that he has been meaningful in a meaningful spot. I don't disagree with everything that you're saying, but the one caveat I would put in this is that he has more information about Joel Embiid this season than we do. He does. He knows more about whether Embiid will come back, and if Embiid is not coming back, and all they end up spending was 1 second-round pick to put Buddy Hield on the team, I'm fine with that. If Embiid comes back in 5 weeks or something and looks great, then he will look at this as a mistake. But I have to believe that he knows more about it than we do. And the only other thing I'll say is that aside from Bojan Bogdanovic from Detroit, nobody else of significance was traded today.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I mean, when they made the Harden trade, I think it was made with the idea of we're acquiring these assets to go get somebody else. And you're right about Joel. If he doesn't come back, then yes, the season is over. But when I just know when I woke up this morning, I was hopeful I would go to sleep with them having a better chance of winning. And it doesn't feel like that's what happened.
215-592-9494 to get in. What's your reaction to the deadline? Ike, what's your reaction real quick here to the deadline?
No, I'm good with it. I mean, listen, when you break it down to what the bare essentials are, where you picked up Buddy Hield and it didn't cost you a whole lot. I would have loved to have kept Marcus Morris and Pat Bev, but in the end, it does sort of signal that maybe they know more about Embiid's situation and what the prospects are of him being back and anything close to being able to make some type of significant run. So this is almost I want to say it's almost sitting on your hands, not necessarily throwing your cards in and saying the season is over with, but they also aren't they aren't trying to sell you false hope by making some ridiculous move saying we can make a run this postseason.
Yeah.
They have a realistic view on what the situation is, and it's kind of where I was leaning anyway, not knowing what Embiid's situation is. The only way I would even want him to come back is if they are solidified in that 6th seed or higher. I didn't want him coming back just for play-in games, right? Trying to be a hero after missing 2 months just to win against some teams that have been fighting to get into the playoffs, and he's trying to get reacclimated. I didn't really want to do that because I think that could further damage his knee or set him back. So it's – I'm not going to say it's disappointing. It's more or less meh. I'm not mad, but also it's nothing to be overly excited about.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy they didn't invest a lot into this roster. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we're in this situation. I'm sorry Embiid's hurt again, but I don't need to invest a lot in this roster. Go in this offseason, make some big moves, and see what happens next year.